This is the design of fearing your own fear. Interesting, is it not? Did you know that, let's take for instance, you make a list on a piece of paper of all the fears that exist within you. But what is interesting, it will look like this. I fear death. I fear pain. I fear being shot. I fear bleeding to death. I fear burning to death. But what is interesting, what is the first statement in that entire sentence? I fear. And the I fear is the first statement placement, dying the second. So dying is a derivative of I fear. So I fear is actually the manifestation of you as what you have accepted and allowed yourself to be one with and equal to. So how does fear look like within human beings? Have a look. This is very fascinating. Let's take, for instance, I fear death. I fear is the first placement. Death is the outflow derivative of I fear, which is the manifestation of what you've accepted and allowed yourself to be one with and equal to as fear. Now, death in itself is fear. So actually, what you're saying is, I fear fear. Let's take another example. I fear bleeding to death. I fear, which means I am fear. I accept and allow myself to be one with and equal to fear. Bleeding to death is the derivative of this fear manifestation of what you've accepted and allowed yourself to be one with and equal to. Bleeding to death in itself is a fear. So it's I fear fear again. Human beings fear their own fear. The most simplest, yet most seemingly complex design within and as human beings' mind consciousness system. Design human beings to fear their own fear, and they exist in constant, continuous fear within themselves, charging, powering, and generating the mind consciousness system within and as them. But now, you can't just go, I don't fear anymore, it is now done. No. You've built layers upon layers upon layers of self-definition within and as you as I fear, as I am fear. As the manifestation of you as what you've accepted and allowed yourself to be one with and equal to. So your I fear fear is hidden in multiple different manifestations. It is like the tree of the mind system of fear. You have the roots, which is fear itself, which you've nurtured and grown with I fear fear, which is I fear death, I fear bleeding to death, I fear being stabbed, I fear being robbed. When that very robbed, killed, stabbed, bleed is fears in itself as a manifested placement within this world. So human beings fear their own fear, which exists within them, which have accepted and allowed themselves to be one with and equal to. So, human beings, I suggest the following. Make a list of all your fears, but you have to go in deep within yourself, an absolute self-honesty, and have a look at what it is that you're accepting and allowing yourself to be one with and equal to in how you have designed you to fear your own fear. And so, you have to disembed yourself from all the I fears that you've connected in a relationship to your mind, because now your mind is designed according to your I fear fears, which you've been designed in places, pictures and words. For instance, you write down, I fear dying. You say, I forgive myself that I've allowed myself to fear dying. I forgive myself that I've allowed myself to connect dying to fear itself, and thus I forgive myself that I've allowed myself to fear my own fear. And you do the same thing and just replace the word dying with bleeding to death or being stabbed to death. Why? Human beings realize that the generation and rejuvenation of fear within and as you is what is charging everything else that exists within this world. If you fear being stabbed to death, you charge and generate your mind consciousness system through your unconscious mind. It balances out in the unified consciousness field, and someone else is stabbed to death. Because if your fear existing within you, because we exist in a unified consciousness field, we work on polarity equated balance formations, has to balance out somewhere else. So, human beings, do not accept and allow yourself to be controlled or influenced by fear. Fearing fear itself. Interesting. And this fear, you give life to, attention to, power to, control to. If you think and believe, you are powerless against fear. It is interesting, human beings think that if they fear something, they're protecting themselves against it happening from them. Fear dying. Because if you fear dying, maybe it won't happen. Then human beings exist their whole life in absolute fear of death, and what happens? You die. Human beings realize that you are inevitably dying within this world. Your human physical body can only last so long. So the question is, are you actually going to live you as who you are in every moment of every breath? Or are you going to exist in constant, continuous fear your entire existence until you one day die? And inevitably, because you hold on to all your fears related to dying, you're feeding the system, it balances out, and someone else experiences what you fear. Stop the mind, human beings. It is not who you are. Live in every moment of self-honesty, a self-trust, a self-expression as you. Thank you very much.